Development, the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, has on Thursday directed its members to commence full mobilization to ensure compliance with the directive of the Nigeria labor unions to embark on an indefinite nationwide strike. Members of NUPENG include the influential Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union, the PTD, whose members drive the petrol and diesel tankers that distribute the products from Lagos, where they are imported across the country. NUPENG's strike notice was contained in a statement jointly signed by its President Williams Akorea and General Secretary Afolabi Olawole on Thursday. The Trade Union Congress and the Nigeria Labour Congress had on Tuesday announced that they will embark on an indefinite strike from October 3 over the prevailing leadership, or hardship rather, due to the removal of petrol subsidy in Nigeria. Away from that, Nigeria's Minister of Works, David Umahi, on Thursday locked out staff of his ministry for resuming work late. It was gathered that the workers staged a protest following Umahi's decision to lock them outside. According to the protesting staff, who were chanting "Umahi must go," they argued that they reside far away and there was no way to come to the office early. One of the senior staff explained that some of them reside as far as Gwagwalada, Kefi, Abaji, Kuje, Kwali, and Kaduna Road satellite towns, areas of Abuja. However, it was reported that the minister later allowed them in, but they refused to enter the ministry's building, insisting that he had to come out and address them. According to them, they want the former Ebonyi State Governor to take measures about their late coming. Well, quite an interesting development, but I'm glad to say joining us tonight to discuss this development is lawyer and political public affairs analyst Liborous Oshoma. Liborous, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
What's your reaction to this very unexpected friction between David Umahi and Nigeria workers? I'm sure you didn't see this coming at all, looking at the plethora of issues the country is dealing with at the moment. Do you think he was a bit high-handed?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I like the fact that the workers stood up to the minister. You know, this is the kind of attitude they exhibit, you know, as state governors, where governors will just walk up to the secretariat and lock the gates, not minding what led to late comings and all of that. And, you know, so this is a behavior that had been exhibited variously by governors. And for the first time, you see that workers are standing up to a minister who was a former governor, you know, for locking them out. But that's not to encourage late coming. But I also would have expected that as soon as the minister resumes office, the first thing for him to do would have been what you call an assessment of what is on ground, what are the challenges, what are the low-hanging fruits, and how do you handle those issues. But from what we see now, it's obvious that the minister had not even done, you know, a meet my people, what he would call meet my people assessment, made the people assessment of what is on ground, what are the challenges they are facing, you know, before locking them out. And you know, when is resumption time in the ministry? When does everybody come, and why is everybody coming late? Why are people coming late? You know, so all of these should have been issues that would have been handled at the preliminary stage. But typical of, you know, our leaders who would, you know, rather engage in showmanship than address the real issues. You know, the minister came at 9:30, and then the next thing, you know, would want to lock every other person that came after him, not minding to find out why, you know, they came late. And also, there are automated ways of doing these things. You know, if you want people to come early, once you provide all the necessary apparatus, there are automated ways for you know, clocking in, signing in, scanning your fingerprint when you resume, and, you know, barcodes and the rest. So it becomes very easy instead of this crude method of, you know, locking the gate. And but I'm happy that the minister met his match, and that it was a show of equal force. And eventually, he came to apologize to the people and promised to address the challenges. And that's how leaders should behave. At the end of the day, you know, listen to the cries of your people that you are leading and not be high-handed.
Liborous, there's a widespread notion that the average civil servant in Nigeria is laid back, largely unproductive, and that the civil service is over bloated. What's your take on this, really, as it concerns this development?
Yes, I agree with you. Some people even refer to them as evil servants. People believe that our politicians are corrupt today because the civil servants, actually point them to areas where they can actually compromise the process. But it is a give and take thing. The minister as an administrator and the politicians as administrators of the workforce should know where to downsize, when to promise and when not to promise, what measures to put in place to ensure that all of this laid-back attitude are cut down. A situation where you find out that even salaries, now the labor unions are threatening to down to, salaries are not enough. Like you say, take-home pay can't even take you home. There are no incentives. There are no, I have not seen an economy where, the government does not subsidize something. In other climes, government subsidize food, government subsidize agriculture, farm produce, but here, the only product that they were subsidizing, now they said they no longer want to subsidize. So what do you do? What are those things that you put in place to cushion the effect? How do you reduce corruption in the ministry? How do you encourage productivity? All of these are the jobs that the minister should ordinarily look at on the first day of office and ensure that, it shouldn't be an organization that with laid-back people, an organization where you promise, you use employment, as campaign tools, and then you just employ people without desks and chairs, only for you to turn around later to complain that there's multiplicity of work. Some of this work actually can be automated also to make it easier, and all this movement of files here and there will not be there. And then in another area, you can also create, a robust private sector that will be able to soak up a lot of these workers that are hanging around the federal civil service. So it becomes easy for you. Not everybody wanted to work, in your federal civil service. But unfortunately, Nigeria, we don't think, even within the box, not to talk of thinking outside of the box. So that's why you have an over-bloated civil service that the government cannot even take care of. And there's some of those offices you get there, the furnitures are nothing to write home about, and then the files are just bulky, and not encouraging. So it encourages laid-back attitude. It encourages corruption and compromise. Where go to federal civil secretariat some days, you almost the junior staffs are begging visitors and contractors that come on board, and it shouldn't be like that. I think government should really look into it and do something worldwide to make to bring back that respect that government workers once had in Nigeria in the First Republic and then, the early days of the military era.
It has been argued, Liborous, that, it's an age-long argument or discussion or debate that the size of the civil service needs to be pruned, downsized or merged. And it's a sort of a bitter pill, the poison chalice that no leader wants to touch. Do you think that this needs to be looked at to reduce the size of the civil service?
It is not just enough to downsize. When there is no employment, there are no employment, and then you say downsize. So you are going to create another problem that is leading to the strike that they are talking about. You create alternative. So people, once there are alternative, it becomes easy for people to generally say, you know what, not everybody wants to work in the civil service. But where there are no alternative, the only one available, it becomes a Molware mentality. That is the only means of mass transportation that is available, and everybody would, soak in there. The moment you have alternative, you have train, you have, other means of transportation like Lamata, and the rest. People generally, you'll be able to phase out all of those Molwares. It's the same thing with the civil service. Once you create an enabling environment for the private sector business to thrive, you will now be able to downsize your civil service, cut out specific areas for them, specific trainings that people that won't fit in would naturally fall out, would either shape up or ship out. But a situation where our civil service, what it is in most cases, is an opportunity for politicians to compensate cronies. And so in some cases, people are employed without job specification. So, and in some other cases, you have multiplicity of work because there are no jobs. So everybody hold on tenaciously to the little one that is available. That's what is causing all of this. But once there are alternatives, so many, manufacturing sector is highly incentivized and the enabling environment is provided. Not just also for the agricultural sector, there is processing. Nobody will want, not everybody will want to be concentrated at the city centers or at the Federal Capital Territory, all in the name of job. Imagine somebody telling you that they live as far as Nasarawa State and, bus to the heart of Abuja, where the ministries are, without train, without railway transportation. Sometimes all of them have to drive to the city center and drive back. Once there are alternatives in these other areas, even engaging the governors, the local governments need to be viable. That is how you can, cut properly the civil service workforce. But until you do that, government job will consistently remain the most lucrative one, even if they are not paying more. But people know that with that sort of job, they will make more money and then make money. And then, so that's why you have all of this.
All right. A plethora of issues, to be looked into as far as Nigeria civil service is concerned. You've talked about the distance. I remember the days when, we'd have housing for civil servants. But, well, we hope for the best. Liborous, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.